tennis at home, I could use a chalk circle, I could use a hula hoop if I have one, or I could make a circle out of rope. I can use a tennis ball, or I could use a play ball. I'm going to start off inside my hoop. To learn how to control the ball in a small space, it's always a good idea to have a target area. So we want to keep the ball quite close to us if we can. So the first thing I'm going to do is send the ball up with one hand, catch it in two hands. I'm not sending it very far to start off with, but when I want to send it further, my arms go longer and slower towards the target, and the ball will go higher. I'll move on to sending with one hand and catching with one hand. Do everything with right and left hand because tennis is a two-sided sport. I must develop good coordination in both sides of my body. So left hand to left hand. And now I'm going to pass the ball from one hand to the other, and I'm going to try to send it in a rainbow shape. So it goes up from one hand and down into the other hand. And that might sound like quite a strange way to describe it, but when we get to deliver a rally eventually in tennis, we need to make the ball go up when it leaves our racket and come down in front of our partner. So this just starts the process off. If I got good at that, I'm going to add a complication, and I'm going to add a clap in. I'm going to try to work up to 3 claps. And now I'm going to step outside of my hoop, and I'm going to throw the ball up. I'm going to let it bounce inside the hoop, and I'm going to catch it with 2 hands. I'm going to send it with one hand and catch it with the other hand. I'm going to add a little bit of movement if I can, and I'm going to try to work my way in half circles around the hoop. So to be able to play tennis, I have to be able to throw and catch a moving ball, and I have to be able to move to and from a bouncing ball. So these exercises help to start that process. I also need to be able to catch the ball from when it is dropping down from my hand. So I'm going to drop down, catch with 2 hands, drop down, 2 hands, drop down, 1 hand, drop down, other hand, drop down, same hand, then from one hand to the other. I'm going to try to pass the ball through the hoop in a V shape. So I send from here, catch with this hand, here, catch with this hand. I'm going to try to hit the ball down. I'm going to build up a rally. That was 2. Drop, 1, 2, 3. And I add an extra shot each time. So the whole thing with this is to start simple, add a little, and go slowly through the progressions. And if you do that, you will much more quickly develop the skills that you need to be able to play tennis. So we've learned how to bump it down. We're going to add a little bit of movement. I'm going to make semicircles around my hoop. And I always just make semicircles, because if I go in a full circle, I'll get dizzy. So bump, 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 bump. So now we've learned to bounce down, and now we're going to learn to bounce up. So I send the ball up, and I bump up with the palm of my hand, and I catch it. Now I'm going to try and build a rally. So that would be 2 bumps. 1, 2, catch, and so on. Then I would try and add a little bit of movement. So I'm going to go bump, 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 bump. So I throw the ball up, I let it drop, I bump up. That would be a rally of 1. Drop, bump up, a rally of 2. Bump up, bump up, bump up, a rally of 3. Now you're going to see how many you can get in 30 seconds. Rally of 1, 2, 3. Remember, build progressively. Add 1 each time. So to be able to play tennis, we need to be able to move to and from a bouncing ball. So if we only have a small space and a ball, we can still practice that. So I'm throwing up with my right hand beside my right leg, and I shift, and I catch in my left hand at my left leg. Then I do the opposite. So it's just one step, and it's nice and slow and controlled. Now you could see how many you could do in 30 seconds. I could also speed it up a little bit by throwing down and catching it with my hand on top of the ball. And I could do it with both hands.